We now have another speaker who I do believe will also be interesting and provocative. Heather Boyle. Oh yeah, she's stepping up to that one. Interesting and provocative, Heather. And she is with Cycling Ireland, and she actually has a master's degree in equality studies. So also very timely in terms of gender and cycling. So without further ado, Heather is going to talk to us about the work that she's doing in Cycling Ireland to promote cycling to women. Okay.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm here to talk to you about Bike for Life. Bike for Life is a programme that Cycling Ireland is currently developing. First of all, I probably should admit that I occasionally wear lycra. Sorry, but I also commute, recreational cyclist and a competitive. Am I going backwards here? Okay, who am I? I'm a programmes coordinator in Cycling Ireland. We run several programmes, including skills programme for children, off-road beginners programme, and also this Bike for Life programme that we're starting. I hold a master's in equality studies where I did my thesis on women in sport. I was looking specifically at gender, femininity in sport, which touches a lot on what Dave was speaking about earlier. And the two sports I was looking at was rowing and cycling. I'm a former international rower. I was racing at the world level until 2007, and I was also, after that, a competitive cyclist. So my initial motivation is as a competitive athlete on any level, when you're racing and you're racing, maybe when you race against 10 people, you become aware that the respect and recognition that you're offered at that point is not the same as if there is a large number of people. So if you want to have more people competing, you need to have more people at every level. So in terms of cycling, you need to have more women cycling in an urban environment, in a recreational environment, and consequently in a competitive environment. Also, since 2007, I've been involved with the Women's Commission of Cycling Ireland, whose aim is to promote participation and also a racing scene in cycling in Ireland. Cycling Ireland is a national governing body for cycling. We look at all areas of cycling, from leisure to high performance, and from all disciplines: BMX, road cycling, which is the most popular. 80% of our cyclists are leisure road cyclists, like the Australian mammals. The average age is about 39 and it's predominantly male. 85% is male, 15% is female. In 2008, this percentage was 9%. So through initiatives with the Women's Commission, helped by Women in Sport, we've held a lot of women's training camps, which has moved that number up to 15%. But despite the huge increase over the last number of years, 15% has remained a static number. And out of that 15%, out of the women cycling, 94% are leisure cyclists. Okay, Bike for Life. This is a programme that we're currently developing. As I mentioned, we're hoping to pilot maybe in October or November. What it is a 12-week programme. We want to offer a welcoming environment. It'll be one session a week, welcoming environment. It's primarily aimed at women. It can be delivered to men also, but the primary aim is to close the gender gap, get that 15% up closer to 50%. What we want to offer is a non-threatening, non-competitive environment for people to come and try the sport from all levels. I'll just discuss the levels in a while. The focus of it will be to learn and enjoy in a safe environment and to offer new opportunities in the sport. I'm going to just talk briefly, I'll probably overlap Dave here a little bit with some of the challenges. Why don't women cycle? What is preventing them from getting on a bike in the first place? Issues of femininity is a huge one. This dates back to the 1890s, even when women initially kind of started cycling in the first place. Back then, in order to cycle properly, they would have, you probably all heard of the bloomers, and the bloomers are kind of what were considered unsightly, or often the women's ankles would be shown, which was unheard of at the time. So even back in the 1890s, femininity was a huge issue. While we have moved on significantly from that and we're allowed to show our ankles these days, a recent documentary in England called Beauty and the Bike discusses the attitude of school girls to cycling, and it was exploring why the girls didn't take to the bike. What they found throughout it is that the schoolgirls considered cycling a male sport, which, I mean, we kind of know that it is a traditionally male sport. When I say sport, I'm talking about it kind of on all levels. I'm used to calling it sport from Cycling Ireland, but to cycle at all, it was considered a male activity. And in order to kind of break down these barriers in the documentary, they tried to introduce cycling as a fashionable kind of activity, and it did work to a certain extent. From there, I'll move on to cycle chic, which is discussed by a lot of people. Cycling chic is another movement that is looking to make cycling a fashionable and sexy and cool kind of sport. There's a lot of or activity. There's a lot of pros and cons to looking at kind of packaging cycling as something that is kind of a fashion accessory, and you see role models for the cycle chic like Kelly Brook or Lily Allen cycling around cycling in with the ultra cool bikes and heels and skirts. Now, while it's really good in creating awareness and getting an increased interest for women cycling, there's also the con in that it does compound an image that people have to keep to, and it also it also creates another kind of elite group of people. You have to conform to a certain image. If you want to cycle now, you have to look cool and you have to look sexy. What I want to see cycling, especially for women, I want to see a norm. I want people on all kinds of bikes, all kinds of ages, all kind of shapes, sizes, and looks. I want cycling to be an activity everybody can participate in. Another huge issue is media coverage. It says there's very little media coverage of female cyclists. I think Anne Bedos touched on it earlier when she said there are very few role models. Part of this comes down to the tradition of, a lot of races. You've got the likes of the Tour de France, Giro d'Italia, it's widely covered. There's a lot of footage of it on TV. I'm sure some of you, because I'm preaching to the converted here, you've probably heard of the Route to Feminine or the Giro Dawn, which are the female equivalents, but they're not widely covered in the news. What you find is when this happens, there are no role models. Cycling is not considered an activity or something that females can take part in. What I have here are two images from the media, and it kind of reflects, it kind of goes back to the issues of femininity and how women should look and how female cyclists should look. What we have here is Chris Hoy, Olympic sprint champion, and here we have Victoria Pendleton, Olympic sprint champion. Chris is sponsored by Brand Flakes. He's standing, chest puffed out, and his muscles flexed in his nice racing attire. We have Victoria Pendleton looking elegant and eating Hovis, and she's sponsored by Hovis Bread. And I've seen her race. I've never seen her look like that. And I think it'd be a lot better for us to see positive images of women on bikes, normal images, so that what you're asking people to do is something possible. Okay, confidence is another issue that's been touched on many times. Traffic safety on the roads. It's not an issue that's that's unique to women, but it is something that women cite a lot. They're nervous of cycling on the roads. In Cycling Ireland, what we find are the cycling clubs, they're predominantly male. I mean, if you're looking at the statistic, 85%, 15 to 15%, what you'll find is in cycling clubs, the weakest men will be around the same standard as the strongest women we have. So the women who do feel comfortable joining clubs are generally stronger. They're generally already interested in cycling, maybe coming from other sports, maybe been cycling for a long time. Now, the fact that it's an intimidating environment is not the fault of the men who are already in the clubs. It's just the pure fact that it is intimidating for a girl to enter a club that only has men in it. Another real issue. Excuse me, sorry, I have a bit of a cold today. Another real issue that affects women from cycling often is that often the women are mothers, and often, not in all cases, but they're the main carer in the family. So the issue here is time restrictions. which is straightforward, about making time to actually go out on the bike. Bike for Life. Why is it needed? Why is a program, a 12-week program, needed to get more women into cycling? Okay, what I have here is an image. This large image here reflects the 85% of men cycling, and this image here is the 15%. If you want to look at it, I use this. I don't know how effective it is for you guys to see, but what I want to see is, like, in terms of visibility. If you're looking at this, this is what the cycling scene looks like. It's that a large amount of men cycling and only a small amount of women. If you're a non-cyclist as a female, that does not look like an exciting. Well, actually, it could do. It look like. What am I saying? It doesn't look like something that necessarily that you want to be part of. Okay, we've touched on earlier. I don't even need to go into why is it good for women to cycle. I think actually Mary Russell, when she was speaking earlier, she spoke about the passion of cycling across the countries, just cycling, getting on your bike and moving. I think the passion that you can get, that's something you want to share with everybody, really. Why women-only events? Why do they work? There is a physical difference between men and women. Men are generally stronger than women. So, it's glaringly obvious for me when it comes to a race situation that, if you have women in a race, if you have an open race, women don't tend to turn up because they tend to get beaten. If it's a women's only race, it works a lot better because you're racing against your peers. This is also the same when it comes to cycling clubs or cycling groups. If you go out with your peers, with your female peers, you're generally going to be cycling with people about the same speed as you. Another reason, women thrive in female-only environments. We have found that at the Women's Commission, as I mentioned earlier, we hold a lot of training camps for women cyclists of all levels, whether they're in Cycling Ireland, not in Cycling Ireland. And what we find is that we need to market. When we're advertising it, we need to market it slightly different. If we're going to hold a training camp, if we're going to include something like sprints or interval training, just as part of a learning activity, we have to phrase it as we're going to play around with the pace when we're cycling, or if it's an endurance cycle, we say we're going to go for a longer cycle. We do have to package it slightly different, because often what we find is women maybe lack a little bit of confidence in coming into a sport or activity environment like that. They're well able to cope, and the activity that we do provide is the exact same no matter what we call it, but they tend to be quite successful. I also read recently about an event in Africa. It was a running race where it was in a town in Africa. About 300, it was an open race, and about 300 people turned up. 6 of them were women. After the race, the organiser kind of turned around and said, well, of course, women aren't interested in racing, they're not interested in exercise, really. They have better things to be doing, bringing up their children and so on. And the 6 women who turned up kind of were a little bit perplexed by it and walked away going, I don't know if that's true, and they organised for a couple of months later, they organised a race and they advertised it around the area saying, we're holding a women's only race, this is a women's only event, come along. And over 2,000 women turned up on the line. So I think that kind of proved that women do thrive and do enjoy female-only environments. As a programme, the Bike for Life, the aim of it is primarily to close the gender gap. I mentioned that earlier. What it is in the 12 weeks is it's an achievable programme. There is an aim at the end of it, and an aim which can be achieved during, it's a real aim that can be achieved during the 12 weeks. What we offer is a safe environment, all levels. So it's 3 levels in the programme, all levels are catered for, and it's a starting point for anybody taking on a cycling journey. What the content in the programme is, there's basic bike mechanics, there's skills, basic bike mechanics like changing punctures and so on. Skills, that's a very important one, no matter what level people are at. With the Sprocket Rocket, the skills programme we offer to children, that is, the same skills are quite relevant in all ages, how to brake, how to turn a corner. What we'll also offer is nutritional advice, training tips depending on their programme, and a ride out or a cycle at the end of each cycle. which will obviously progress as the weeks go on. 3 levels. The first level we're looking at is beginners. So the aim of this is competency. The target person in this category that we'll be looking at is probably somebody who recently maybe bought a bike in the Bike to Work scheme, can pedal a bike but hasn't cycled in a long time, doesn't have a great level of fitness and really just wants to be able to commute. In this programme what we'll be looking at is, what they'll be looking to do is commute, basic skills, how to turn a corner, how to brake at the lights, how to have general awareness of what's going on around you, how to be comfortable over by the end of the 12 weeks they should be comfortable with traffic moving close. It will start off in maybe the first few weeks will be mostly in a car park or an enclosed environment, and slowly it'll be brought out over the out onto the street, and again there'll be basic bike mechanics offered in it. The second level is not what we call novice. So the aim is to, at the end of the 12-week programme, be able to cycle a 50-kilometre challenge. This, the person here may have already completed a beginner's course, may already be cycling, commuting to work, maybe cycle 10 or 15 kilometres. During the programme, what we'll be teaching them to do is how to cycle as a group, how to understand the gear changes, how to change gears in different terrains. Basic nutrition we'll be looking at here. Now, one of the points that will be quite important at this point is how to cycle along, and if you want to take a drink, how to take a drink and hold your line at the same time, how to reach into your pocket and take out a bar or something like that. That's all part of the learning and the skills involved here. And obviously the training tips, if at the end of the 12 weeks you're going to do a 50-kilometre challenge, that will be important. The last level is the intermediate level. The person here will possibly have previously completed the novice level, but also they will be somebody who perhaps has come from another sport. They might be looking for 120-kilometre challenges or an introduction to races. So as you can see, there is a pathway through the programme for the cyclist. They may come from other sports, so at this point they need to have the basic skills. Nutritional advice again will be offered, and clothing advice, because I don't think the heels and the dress will work so well over the 120-kilometre challenge. Training tips will also be included at this point, and they will probably be getting training programmes depending on their challenge. Bike for Life leaders will be trained by Cycling Ireland. They'll be trained up. They approach us, and they will receive resources to be able to deliver to all 3 levels. So once they have this training, they choose the group that they want to deliver in it. The group may need little bits from each of the levels to meet their requirements. They can also choose their environment. We imagine it will be mostly delivered in a road setting, but it can also be adapted to an off-road setting, which could be quite fun. The cyclists will be from anywhere, as you can see here. They come from clubs. Clubs will probably be more the 3rd level, I would say. Schools and universities, we'd really like to target that group. And people discussed already about this is an age profile that we're kind of missing on the roads. Different workplace and interest groups and rehabilitation groups. Already, even though it's in development stages, we've been approached by so many different groups from different places who are interested in running the course. Bike for Life, the 2 sponsors are HSC and Women in Sport. HSC, it's coming from their obesity budget, which is great. Other programs we run, I mentioned Sprocket Rocket, Gearing Up Off-Road. We also offer coaching qualifications and commissar training. Commissars are like the referees in the races. Any questions, which I think we're taking later, and my contacts. All right.